I guess we're on. All right, all right, all right. So, hello everyone, Carlos again for another Evolve Expert Sessions. And today I have the honor to be hosting Mayssa. And please correct me how I pronounce your last name, Nasr.
Very good.
All right. With 15 plus years in marketing, Mayssa has held leadership roles at L'Oreal, Mars, and various tech and e-commerce startup companies. She today is a certified master coach and specializes in empathic leadership and creating inclusive, thriving teams. She's also a Middle East expert and excels in crafting compelling brand narratives and executing impactful marketing campaigns, both in digital and traditional commerce and marketing. Maisa, just before we start, I'd like to also give a shout to our partners at Air Meet because they make these events possible. And welcome to one of our expert sessions. Stoked to have you. So today we're going to talk about Middle East, about your career. I always start with the same question, which is the big picture. So how did we get here, and who's Maisa?
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Carlos, for this introduction. So who's Mayssa? So Mayssa was born and raised in Beirut in Lebanon. You know, this small Middle Eastern country, Lebanon. And then I moved to Paris, to France, to continue my study. This is where I started my career early on at L'Oreal, actually in France, where I started, my marketing career per se. And then I moved back because at L'Oreal they needed someone, to take over some brands from the office in Lebanon for all the, some Levant countries. So in the Middle East, you need to know that we separate the Middle East countries with the Levant countries. Levant countries are Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq. So they asked me to go back to Lebanon. So I went back to Lebanon. I headed, several brands from the Lebanon office to these countries. Then I moved back to Mars Inc., which is the US-based company. Mars, the big chocolate company. So we were also based in Lebanon, but also catering, to the Levant countries plus 2 or 3 other countries in the Middle East. Then I switched industries from the FMCG and retail industries to the events company, where I worked also for 3 years in one of the biggest event organizer B2B companies, always based in Lebanon, but for the whole Middle East region. I was particularly traveling a lot to Qatar and to Egypt at that time. Then, after 3 years and a half with them as the head of marketing, I started to feel that I needed to go more into the digital and tech fields, which I thought at that time that I lacked a bit. And so this is what I did. I started my journey in startups in techs. So I started at Basma, which is a health tech company where, always based in Lebanon, but here it was mainly for KSA and UAE. Why it's always based in Lebanon, just for you to understand, because when you are based in Lebanon, Lebanese people usually speak, all of them, let's not say all of them, 65% of them speak 3 languages from school: English, Arabic, and French. So it's always easier to set up, and it's also cheaper to set up a company in Lebanon and to cater, to all the other countries, because you have some countries who speak French, other who speak more English, and other who speak more Arabic. So when you have a person who speaks all 3 languages, you don't have, this challenge anymore. So this is why many companies establish themselves in Lebanon and, cater to the region, especially small, startups. So I started at Basma as their, marketing director also. So it was interesting because I set up actually the whole marketing team. I also had within the strategy, in the management board. It was very interesting. It was mainly for the UAE and for KSA at that time. I didn't really know these 2 countries, so it was very interesting to see how different they are from the rest of the Middle Eastern countries. We'll talk more about that in a while. Then I also worked with Knock Knock, which is a grocery online app for groceries, which was very interesting because I was employee number 4 at that time. So I helped, set up everything from, go to market strategy before even we launched the app. I was there. So I was there when the app was launched. This was specifically for Lebanon only. Then they opened to the African countries. And then I moved to Zood. This is where I met Carlos. So Zood actually, where I spent almost 2 years as is an e-commerce company. So Zood is headquartered in Switzerland. And they have offices. So they have offices in Uzbekistan, in Pakistan, in Switzerland, in India, in France, in Lebanon. And the offices in Lebanon was actually, in terms of marketing only, spearheading all the other countries, right? So it was very interesting for me also, to go into this e-commerce. And it was not always only e-commerce, because we opened a fintech arm after a while. So it was very interesting to see how to merge these two, fintech, where you can, order now and pay in installments, right, within this e-commerce platform. So this was very interesting too. After that, I moved to Lisbon with my family for many reasons. So we needed to change, let's say, to change scenery and have a new adventure. So when I moved with Lisbon to my family, I was like, okay, so it's time for me to be on my own today. I have enough expertise in marketing, be it strategic marketing, operational marketing. Let me try to be on my own. And so it's been 1 year. I'm a marketing consultant. I have mainly one big client today in Qatar, Next Fair, which is one of the biggest event organizers today in the region. And I also consult, small other, companies, startups mainly, on their go-to-market strategy, on their growth, even on the organization itself, because it's very important today to have the right people in the organization itself. So, in a nutshell, all my career was in marketing, and it was always, for the Middle East, so the Middle East countries.
Amazing. So, uh, thanks for sharing the big picture. I think the way I like to structure this, and since we are so many internationals here, Hawan being from Brazil, living in the US, Dominic from Canada, he's worked for Elastic Path, also a German company prior to that. I think it would be very interesting to first understand what is the Middle East, because we don't know. And being a Brazilian in Denmark, I'm very happy to say that I'm ignorant and that I don't know stuff, because that's how we learn, right? Um, about about many regions of the world. So please define what's Middle East. And Dominic, please mute your mic because we can hear the page flipping. Sorry. Define what the Middle East
Yes.
is, and yeah, I think would be interesting to start from there.
Okay, so the Middle East region is part of the Asian continent as a whole, right? And the Middle East region is mainly the Arab countries, if you want, right? So all countries that have, like, Arab origin. So we're talking about, I'm going to give you, example of countries. We're talking about UAE, so Dubai and Abu Dhabi. We're talking about Saudi Arabia. We're talking about Kuwait. We're talking about Qatar. We're talking about Jordan, Bahrain, Lebanon, to name a few. So all these countries who are in the southeast part of the Asian continent, and some of them have the Mediterranean Sea, on their borders. So this is where the Middle East is, and the Middle East is mainly, all these countries I told you about, to name a few.
Okay, cool. But you said you have the Levant countries.
So the Levant country in the Middle East, so there's the Levant, that are Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, and Iraq. Okay, these four countries are, commonly, just told that they are the Levant countries, because they are more in the east, of this Middle East countries. So we call them the Levant countries. So whenever someone is, responsible of the Levant region, it's Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, and Iraq.
Okay, and what differs these countries from the southeastern part countries? Is it
It's
You know.
they are more in terms of consumer behavior. They more resemble each other's, if you want, right? So you can have sometimes the same marketing strategy for this level, not every time. However, in terms of consumer behavior, you can see, some very, common things between them. This is why.
Okay. So let's go back to your experience in L'Oreal and then Mars, fast moving consumer
Yes,
goods. You worked in France, right? You were there
yes.
working in France, and then you were given the mission to develop the Lebanon region, right? And so, what were some of the challenges that L'Oreal faced at the time that you were able to spot and help them solve? L'Oreal and Mars,
Yes, interesting question. So the first thing is that, whenever you have international companies who establish themselves, by the way, L'Oréal and Mars were both already established, long before I joined them in Lebanon. But they were, expanding bit by bit. Today, Mars doesn't exist, by the way, anymore in Lebanon. L'Oreal does and is doing perfectly, but Mars doesn't exist anymore, especially after all the wars and what's happening in the region. So one of the main challenges that you face, especially when you come, from a European culture. So I started my career under a European culture, right, at L'Oréal. And then I moved back to my home country where, I should know more the culture. However, in terms of work ethics and how you do things, how you put things into perspective, it differs a lot. I'm going to give you some examples. Let's say, for example, that at L'Oréal, we had a certain budget to launch a certain product, right, in France. When I moved to Lebanon, for all this Levant region, it was not that you have a certain budget. It was like, let us know how much do you need to make this product a successful one in this particular region, right? So already it differs a bit because they don't want to give you a budget and then you will use it all, but you might have used, I mean, half of it, and then everything would be okay. And after this, they go, they review the budget, they analyze it, they ask questions, and they always, give you a, a lesser budget anyway. So first, it was like you try and tell us what budget do you need, and second, what works in Europe doesn't work in the Middle East and in the Levant region.
I.
Was, for example, people calling
Mhm.
cold calls. It worked a lot at that time. We try to do the same. It doesn't work in the Levant and in the Middle East because consumer behaviors are, differ. They don't like people just to call them like this and to interrupt them. Whereas in Europe, they don't mind, right? They even tell them, please call me back. So it was a bit difficult just to understand the consumer behavior per se because all the marketing strategy is based on consumer behavior, right? So this was one of the biggest challenges. So the consumer behavior and be able to put your own budget without having anything on the table.
Super interesting. In terms of, let's go deeper in terms of consumer behavior. Do you have numbers? Do you have practical examples and things that they were doing uh, that they thought they were just rocking and doing the right thing and it wasn't the right thing? I mean, have so many examples of
Yes.
companies that try to tap into the Brazilian market and they just fuck up, like a terrible job because they don't understand the nuances of a culture, right?
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
so, uh,
Agreed, agreed. I'm going to give you an example at Mars, for example, right? Mars, it's you have the chocolate brand. So Mars has, M&M's, Twix, Mars, Snickers, you name it. All these, chocolate. So it's under the Mars Inc. company. And for example, when I used to work at L'Oréal, it was all about loyalty to a certain brand, loyalty to a certain cream, right? Loyalty to a certain shampoo. You use the same shampoo. Seldomly, you change shampoos. Maybe when you travel, you use the same perfume. Ladies use the same face cream. So you have a certain loyalty that you need to work on. Versus, for example, when you work in the chocolate industry, there's no loyalty, right? It's impulse buying. So the impulse buying differs a lot from different culture. For example, in the Middle East region and in the Levant region, where you need to put the chocolate is, at the countertop when you're leaving at the cashier, because people are waiting. They'll take some chocolate while waiting for their turn, and then they'll buy them. In Europe, this might work, but what works more is to have sometimes promoters standing in supermarkets, right? And explain to you about the benefits of this chocolate. Why is it good? Why is it bad? So stuff like that. So for example, at Mars, we were all about buying, because you buy these shelves at the supermarket, by the way. You need to buy your share on this counter, because they know that there's a lot of impulse buying happening. And sometimes, by the way, when you come to the Middle East, you'll see that some cashier do it on purpose to take their time, so that they will have a line, so that people will buy more, because sometimes they are even incentivized. So when you understand this in the Middle Eastern culture, you see why you really need to buy these, and you really maybe need to have another counter to buy, even another counter to brand it yourself, and to put it here. So yeah, this is an example for Mars.
Super interesting. Still, when you're looking at consumer patterns, what are some of the stuff that are obvious to you as a Lebanese person that you have to
Yes.
explain to an international like myself who's going to go to Lebanon for the first time, the do's and don'ts? For example, in Brazil, when we are going to say hello to a lady, it's very common that we kiss, especially in if it's depending on the state that you're in. Like São Paulo will be one kiss on the cheek.
Yes.
Rio de Janeiro can be, I think, three kisses, right? Two kisses, yes. And up northeast, where my parents come from, it can be up to three kisses. So
Yes.
and stuff like that. That like we don't know that are common knowledge for you guys, but we should know
Yes.
in terms of culture, in terms of behavior, in terms of what to expect.
Yes, interesting question. So I'm going to talk a bit about Lebanon, because Lebanon is a bit particular versus other Middle Eastern, countries. So Lebanon is a bit particular because, as I told you, it's one of the, I think it's the only country in the Middle East who had the three languages at school, from the beginning. Ever since you are 5 years old, you actually learn French, English, and Arabic, right? First. And this actually makes us more open, because Lebanon was a French colony, right? So it has a lot of European culture, in everything that you do. So we are more open. You have more, for example, Christian people in Lebanon than any other Middle Eastern countries, right? We do kiss whenever we go and meet someone for the first time. Yes, we kiss. We have in certain regions one kiss versus three kisses in other regions too. And it's all about generosity in Lebanon. So, for example, in Lebanon, when someone invites you to lunch and you just don't eat everything they put on the table, this cannot happen, right? You need to eat everything, So this is, a bit of culture thing. Plus, Lebanese are, for example, known for, everything in terms of sales and commerce stuff. So they speak a lot. They know how to sell their stuff, right? So you should not fall into the trap in case there's a trap, for example, right? So Lebanon, they are very educated people. They travel a lot. You have more Lebanese outside Lebanon than in Lebanon, right? You have you have the biggest community in Brazil. I think you know that, Carlos. Yeah. So you have 17 million Lebanese outside Lebanon and 5 million in Lebanon. So imagine. Okay. Lebanon is a very small country anyway. We cannot have everyone in, but this is because we had many wars, right? And, people were fleeing, during the wars. So this is about Lebanon. However, all the other Middle Eastern countries, it's different. So when we talk about Saudi Arabia, when we talk about the UAE, so today there are more and more expats living there, right? However, even the expats need to know that when they go to some public areas, there are some stuff that they cannot do. In UAE today, you can hold hands and you can kiss, but 5 years ago, you couldn't do that. Today in KSA, you cannot just hold hands, and walk. In some areas, they started opening up, right? So it's evolving bit by bit because they want to attract more and more tourists. They want to attract more and more investors. And they understood that they need to be more open, to the Western world to be able to do that, right? For example, in UAE and in KSA, you don't have any bars, any alcohol. You are not allowed to have and to sell and to buy any alcohol if you don't have a certain license, one, and it's not easy to get a license. Plus, you cannot have bar and go to a bar and drink alcohol if this bar is not within an international hotel, for example, right? So these are a few stuff that you need to learn about and to know in terms of doing business, for example, in KSA and in UAE. In KSA, for example, if you want to go and open your own company, you should be mindful that this company should sound Arabic. The name of the company should sound Arabic. So this is a very small example just for you to know that they still have, Saudi Arabian are very proud of their country, right? So whenever someone wants to go in, they need to let them feel that we hear you, we feel you, and we're here to help you, and we want to be integrated very quickly, right? In UAE, it's much easier today to open. UAE has been in a growth trajectory for the last 20 years. KSA has been on a growth trajectory, but it's only since 2017, when MBS came to the throne, that it started opening up. So this is why we are hearing more and more today about Saudi Arabia, about their 2030 vision, about how they want to attract more and more tourists, about all these companies that they want to. There are some companies, they would like them to leave the UAE and Dubai and to come and establish themselves in KSA. So there's, like a war, an economical war, if you want, between these two countries today. So, but it's interesting. But in terms of e-commerce, in terms of Q-commerce today, UAE is still number one in the Middle East with 46% in terms of market shares. All right. If we want to talk in terms of e-commerce and Q-commerce, UAE is still number one. When we talk UAE, we have Dubai and Abu Dhabi because also they both differ. For example, when you live in Dubai, it's not like when you live in Abu Dhabi. When you work in Dubai, it's not the same as when you work in Abu Dhabi. So these things are very interesting to know. I was saying just with the last point that today there are more and more expats, right, living in these countries. They have great packages, even in the UAE, you don't have taxes to pay, so it's a tax haven for them, right? So they are attracting more and more people to come and actually work there. Whereas in KSA, their main focus today is not, it is a bit on business, but it's more on the touristical side. They want to attract tourists. They are telling the world that you are open today, and they are investing a lot on all touristical sites, on all events about tourism. This is where their main focus is tourism and everything about renewable energy and sustainability, right? But we do have like a way today in the Middle East countries. When we talk Middle East, the two main countries that come to anyone's hand, in terms of business is UAE and KSA.
Yeah, I think in terms of branding themselves, it's very powerful. Starting with like even they've been paying some crazy money for football players, right?
Exactly. Even
Go
by the
there and
way, yes. So Ronaldo, who went to
exactly.
Saudi Arabia to Al Nasser. Even by the way, PepsiCo, who did like a partnership with local Middle Eastern star. The Egyptian Muhammad. I forgot his last name. So he's now the star. The number one Egyptian player in the Egyptian team is now the star of the. Muhammad Salah is now the star of the PepsiCo. In the Middle East. So they are investing a lot, and football is important to the Middle East. World Cup happens in Qatar. Qatar, invested a lot in terms of World Cup. Then they were struggling a bit after the World Cup, what to do. Now they are reinvesting in many stuffs, in museum, in many cultural things, in sustainability. They just won, the best award in terms of airport. Qatar Airways only also won the best airline. So they are working on this. So you have KSA, UAE, and then you have Kuwait and Qatar, who are always, very big players playing in the, Middle Eastern scenes too.
I find this fascinating because there is definitely a governmental plan. Like when you look at it, you can't achieve those things without the government backing you up and saying, "Hey, let's build a brand. Let's be the best airliner, like China does." And in many ways, I admire the Chinese, and I might be canceled for saying this, but I don't care because I think they look at their own interest. Back in the day, like in the 90s, the markets were open, everybody went there. I wouldn't say exploit, but they were clever and they're doing stuff even better than North Americans today, right? So there's a massive preoccupation or worry there about China and the US, and I think these are very interesting times. But the government, like going back to what you're saying, has such an interesting plan to brand themselves and then attract foreign investment. These are countries that are, they live off oil, so probably they're trying to diversify, right? In other respects.
Exactly. No, you are completely right. They have money. Let's
Hmm.
let's say things as they are. These are governments who have money, and as you said, they don't want to rely only and solely on oil today. So this is why they are mainly looking, on into other, like tourism mainly, like sustainability and renewable energy also. So yes, you are completely right.
Amazing. Maisa, you were working for a fintech, right?
Yes.
And I was looking at their kind of bio yesterday, and their mission was to empower, let's say, buyers. Or it was a digital lending company, uh,
Yes.
and also a marketplace. And the number that they said on their website or somewhere I found was 300 million people in the
Yes.
region, right?
Yes. Yes.
So tell me about the, let's say, the income, the purchase power in that region, because in Brazil, like during COVID, we had, I think, maybe 40%, or I don't remember how one, if you remember, or 60% of the population wasn't bankerized, if you can use that word.
Yes.
So
Yes.
after
Yes. Yes.
after COVID, because we needed to do quick transfers so people could actually survive. Like we have something called PIX, which is like instant money transfer.
Okay.
Now we have a map of where people are, and so they are part of the banking system. And of course, the government knows who can pay tax and so on. So tell me a bit about,
Yes.
in general numbers, what you guys were doing. Like because I think it's fascinating. We talk a lot about UAE and KSK, as you said, right?
KSA, Kingdom of
K-
Saudi Arabia. Yes.
yeah. But about this region, so 300 million people, it's a lot. Brazil is 215, I guess, 220, 230, right? So
So the 300 million, by the way, was encompassing all the countries, right, that you were working on. So Uzbekistan, Pakistan, Kazakhstan, you have India, and you have Lebanon, right? So, but it's an interesting question, by the way, in terms of bankerized people, as you said it. So yes, there were many people who were not bankerized. Actually, if I can give you a number, it's 50%. 50% of our overall target in terms of population either didn't trust the bank, right? So if they have an account, it's really like a very small account. And some of them didn't even have, credit cards. So you couldn't purchase from, an e-commerce website without a credit card. So what we did actually is that we were going and talking with mobile wallets companies, right? So mobile wallets company were coming in and replacing banks, right? Be it in Lebanon, in Uzbekistan, in Kazakhstan, in Pakistan. So we were actually doing deals and partnership with all these mobile wallet companies who were just, popping up, popping up, popping up because they saw that there's a need today. There's a need. There's no trust for the banking system, but people need something. People need an organization. People need people to trust, to see where to put their money, how to do their transactions. So what we did at that time is that we went, yes, we had some partnership, with some very targeted banks. But what we did is that we went to all the mobile wallets company and we did partnership with them. And at that time, what they did is that they marketed for us, right, our fintech solution for all their consumers. So it was amazing because we gave them a deal. We were giving them a percentage every time someone from their end came, and purchased from our end. And, we grew up our customer base. So this is what we did. So we went to mobile wallets companies.
So maybe you were giving like you were rewarding new customers with some money, so they could
With some,
like,
no, not with some money, with some, percentage of like a rebate on their first order, right? Whenever they come. Plus, you had this point system and everything else that, you can benefit from after the fourth, the fifth, and then the 10th, and then you become a loyal customer. So you had like a loyalty rewarding system that you could benefit from too.
what were your challenges there? Very curious about it.
Yeah. So in the rewarding system, you mean?
In general.
In general, so in general, first it was going to, taking the decision to go to these, mobile wallets company, because it's not the mainstream thing that you would do, right? I mean, the banks are here, they are established companies, institutions. So already going and talking, all of them were small startups still, right? So you were actually empowering them in a way or another. It was a win-win situation, but for them it was a more win than for us, right? But we didn't have a choice. We were like, if we want to succeed in this, because let's face it, there's no trust in the banking system. Only 50% of our target population is bankerized. So this was a big challenge for us, trusting these small startups, with whatever they will be doing, to actually, increase our customer base, and then letting the customers trust them with whatever they are marketing for Zood, right? So first, you need to go and talk with these money wallet companies, right? To let them feel and let them understand what we are giving, what's our main advantage today to the customer, which is they can order whatever they want and pay by installments after, which, by the way, this I will talk about it after, by the way. So this is one. So actually talk to them and let them understand the system, how it is, because it's not, I mean, we were quite of new in this region. We were actually the first one to have this kind of solution in these countries. So people did not understand how. I just order, I pay once. How can you trust me? And what if I don't pay, the second or the third installment? I mean, people did not understand. Are you scammers? How do you do it? Who said that I will receive my product the way I see it, on the app? So it was not easy. Here, by the way, the work of the influencers helped a lot, because in this region, influencers are idols, just for you to know. So when you pick and choose the right influencer for the right product, for the right brand, it's done. You don't need to do any other advertising, right? They are really idols. So they follow them, they do whatever they do. They buy whatever these influencers buy. They go to places wherever these influencers, it's crazy. I mean, the influencers world in the Middle East region is really crazy. So we invested a lot in influencers. We paid, I think, around $250,000. All our marketing budget went to influencers, right? Apart from whatever we are putting in terms of rebate, and points, and in the app itself, all our marketing budgets went to influencers, and it worked. It worked out because people want to do what they are doing, and people were purchasing whatever the influencers were showing that they purchased on the app. So whenever we wanted, to sell a particular product more than another one, we asked the influencer to talk about this particular product, right? So it was crazy. So we invested in influencers. They helped us in terms of trust, in terms of letting people trust us trusting the system, this new fintech arm, this new buy now, pay later, BNPL. They didn't know what BNPL means, right? So these buy now, pay later that you see today, it's a common word if you want in Europe, in the e-commerce world. They didn't know what it meant. So this was very interesting. Influencers helped us in that. And then our second and biggest challenge was to make sure that people will keep on, paying their installments, right? So today, in the BNPL world, the way it works is that so whenever you go to an e-commerce website and you choose this BNPL option, you only buy, so it's, let's say it's in 4 or 6 or 8 installments, depending, so we had 4 or 6 installments. So let's say a product costs $100, right? And you choose 4 installments. You pay $25 the first time. You get the product before you need to pay the 3 other installments, right? So here you have a big risk. You have a big financial risk to make sure that people will buy. So what we did is actually we integrated a security system into our app, not to have a lot of fraud, right? We asked for an ID, we asked for a selfie, we asked many questions, and we had a certain algorithm who would accept or reject within only 5 seconds, this person. If this person is eligible actually to choose this BNPL option, or if this person should only,
Right.
buy fully. Yeah.
It's kind of like a scoring system where
Yes.
you
Yes.
quickly you can. Yeah,
Exactly.
I was talking to a Romanian startup, but this is a KYC, know your customer. This is
Yes,
the sort of
it's
technology, right?
eKYC. Yes, it's
Yeah.
eKYC. So it's e-commerce, know your customer. Exactly. This is the right technical term. Yeah.
And it's not fraud, but you guys were having a big challenge with that, with the payments then, or
Listen, not a lot. It was depending on the country. So in Lebanon, no, we only had like so the maximum you should have is a 5% internationally. Whenever you work on the BNPL, the maximum that you can say it's fine and that you need to put in your financial P&L is that you will have a 5% fraud. So people 5% won't be paid. In Lebanon, we only had 0.8, which was
wow,
amazing.
amazing.
Yes. In Uzbekistan, we had a 4.8, which was really at the limit, for example. In Pakistan, we had a lot of fraud. So we had a big challenge there, even with the eKYC. So what we did is that we only worked, so we removed all the partnership with, the mobile wallet company that we did, and only worked with only one bank, even though it meant, shortening, your target market, but we wanted to make sure that you're only targeting people we can trust in terms of installment, right? So Pakistan was, another challenge for us. So in the other countries, it was less than 5%. So yeah, so here also you understand the customer behavior and how it can be trust, it cannot be trust. So it was interesting.
That's really amazing. I mean, we just have gents. Please fire away your questions here, as usual. So, Mayssa, this is almost like a mentoring session that we do as well. We take advantage of all the internationals that we have in the community, always from experts to experts. Dominic, you had a question, so go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, I was actually very interesting, Mike. Really enjoying it. Quick question, because we're talking a lot about go to market and in the Middle East and all of that. Um, I guess I always ask the same question, but if you look at maybe 2 or 3 key differences of the go to market within the Middle East versus potentially globally or North America and all that, are there like 2 or 3 key differences that you see right off the bat, or is it basically based on industry?
Okay, very interesting question. So the first thing I would say in terms of marketing is that there are some norms and regulations that you need to abide by in the Middle East, right? So for example, in the Middle East, in some countries, you cannot have an advertisement with, a lady in her swimming suit, let's say, right?
Hmm.
Even if you want to sell swimming suits, okay? So you have some norms and regulations that you need to abide by. And another example, in some, Middle East countries, they wear, on their head, the white abaya, the
Mm-hmm.
white thing, the white torch. And it's not the same in all the Middle Eastern countries. So in Kuwait, they wear it, with the necks here. In Qatar, some, it's
Mm-hmm.
another style. So you cannot put Qatari people for a Saudi Arabian, advertisement.
Mm-hmm.
For you, they are all the same, right? But
Mm-hmm.
for them,
Correct.
it's a big no-go because many companies did this. This is a big thing that companies need to understand, right? Um, Norms and regulation, being aware that you really need to choose the right people if you want to put people on your advertisement. And one very important thing also is that you need to make them feed, because all Middle Eastern countries, so people are proud to be, from this particular country, right? So
Mm-hmm.
whenever you want to go and, do like a marketing campaign, or like open a new company or launch a new product, or you name it, you need to do it in a way that this is for you, right? We know that you need to have this love of country embedded in this marketing campaign in a way or another for it to work, right? Because it's not the same globally. Globally, it's about the product itself. It's about the brand itself. It's about, the
So
advantages
interesting.
of
So
the
that means
product.
that
It's about, yeah,
so if like if a North American company would put a campaign out and have a diverse, like as part of their campaign, have a diverse culture, have different races and nationalities, right? So in other parts of the market they could be good, in that part of the market they could be shooting themselves in the foot because that's totally
exactly,
negative.
exactly, exactly.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
All right, Helen, you work a lot with software implementation and big experience with international with e-commerce. Perhaps you have a few questions. You just arrived in the US. You're absorbing quite a bit of knowledge. We have several Arabic, let's say, people in the US as well, like in Brazil, we have as well. So what are you noticing? And maybe if you have some questions for Mayssa, it would be great to hear.
Yeah, Misa, it's really, really interesting. Thank you for your sharing your time and your knowledge. I had an experience of e-commerce, exactly the example that you said, swimming suit for women in Dubai,
Yes.
and it
Okay.
was really hard, the advertising. It's really, really the Facebook and the Meta are
Yes.
different from the what we do in Brazil.
They
So
they they refuse your ad automatically. Meta
yeah,
will refuse exactly. Yes.
yes. So it
Yes.
was really, really tough. And but it's quite similar the question that Dominic have done. But I find really interesting what you said about the influencers, because in Brazil it also means a lot. So when we do influencers, we can have a huge impact. And also nowadays we have some influencers that are creating their own brands. So this
Yes.
is quite new and really interesting. And we have some sales for 100 of million in just a few hours. And what I would like to ask, you have worked in L'Oreal and Mars, so different industries. And but what do you find that are common? Like, what do you find that are common for European and Middle East people? Like, we are all human beings. So, for the companies that are willing to go to the Middle East, what are the points that they can say? Okay, these things are common. These things are both
Yes.
important for Europe and for Middle East.
I'm gonna answer with one word: emotions. Okay. As you said, we are all human. And
Okay.
whenever you have an advertisement that shows emotions in a way or another, it will work. Be it emotion towards the country, be it emotion towards what this product is doing to me, you know? So it's emotions. Whenever you have, so this is why content is very important in marketing. Copywriting and content is one of the most important skill in marketing. Whenever you can write a copy with emotions, taking into consideration, of course, all the norms and challenges of, every city, every country, it will work. You need to have emotions in your script and it will work out.
Interesting. So the power of the storytelling.
Exactly. Exactly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Gustavo, you come from payments, and you've done a lot of integrations in the world of payments. Maybe you have a few questions there about what to integrate, what not to integrate.
Yeah, so as you said about the buy now pay later that you have worked. Uh, yes, it's a bit interesting because when I was at VTEX and we were working on integrations, and this solution as buy now pay later became very popular, started becoming very popular in Europe and in the US with Klarna and Afterpay and some other players in the US, and also PayPal a bit later. Nowadays, Apple does that, I believe, or Virgin, or something around that. But in Brazil, it was not because we already have installments, something that is basically from Latin America. So we have this in Brazil, in Mexico, you have also, in Argentina, you have something like that. But in some other Latin American countries, we have something like that. So you can buy, it's not new for us, but this was something new, and some solutions from buy now pay later tried to enter in Brazilian market. Also, Brazilian have developed some solutions for buy now pay later, but it didn't get right in Brazil because we already have a solution that maybe it's like that. And what I would ask is, what have you seen in these countries? So that is different in terms of payment. So besides buy now pay later, because in Brazil we also have this Pix that Carlos talked about. It's like it's basically the same function of the Indian UPI. Yes, it's UPI the name. Yes, so it's basically the same thing. So instant money transfer. So I'd like to ask, so how, and also how is to present to the companies these different solutions that you have discovered or that you were trying. So because the company, it's when it's something new, it's very different. And again, I believe you need to explain about the culture of the place, about people, how is the country, how's the region, how they work, what they have and what they don't have. So a bit
Yes.
about that.
So actually, it depends on the country. So, for example, in Lebanon, similar as Brazil, we already had installments. So people install their cars, people install their houses, people even install their marriage mortgage. I mean, so in Lebanon, we already have this, culture of installment. This is why there was no fraud. Fraud was very minimal. In Pakistan, where we had a lot of fraud, for example, this is where our big challenge was. And this is how we decided to only work with the bank who usually gives credit and installments, to the clients for them to actually market us and through them, do this BNPL thing only, right? So we use the bank card. In Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, we did a lot of advertising, a lot. We really spent a lot, right? In terms of advertising, in terms of trust, in terms of how you can get it, now and pay later. It was only about advertising, emotional advertising, by the way. And this advertising helped us. At least many people downloaded the app, right? But then you need to convert them. It's the first stage to download the app, but then you need people to actually do something about it, buy by installment. And this is where, when we had a good number of downloads, this is where inside the app and in terms of notification and everything else, we, started to talk about, the benefits of BNPL, testimonials. Testimonials are very important because people need to hear that others did that before them and that it was okay. So testimonials are very important. So we worked a lot on testimonials too. And still it's a challenge, right? It's never easy, especially when you have, it's true, we had this first mover advantage, but it's never easy in terms of trust, in terms of credibility. You will have your loyal customers, yes, but you need, to increase it and expand it. So you always need to remind people, how they say in marketing that one person needs to hear and see your brand 7 times before they actually make a decision about buying or not. And this is actually not only for the first time, because it's not easy to have loyalty today anymore with everything that we see, with all the ads. When you're scrolling on your phone, you see multiple ads, it's not easy anymore, right? So they were, advertising all the times, billboard, the Facebook, digital ads, so everything. So yeah, so this was the only way today, with testimonials again, as much as possible on the app and on digital campaign, to make people, because it was only the trust element. When it comes to BNPL, it's the trust and the credibility element, that you need to work on. So yeah.
Yes, and in terms of advertising, as you said, you need the consumer needs to see your brand or remind you 7 times, and it, it, as you said, day to day with the scrolling and everything, it seems like it's always the first time. So it's difficult
Exactly.
to to make
Exactly.
this journey of seven touch points, let's say, because maybe you're in the third and it's a lot of things that the consumer is going through a lot of
Exactly.
things, and it's like the first time again. Yes, I'll just put one question here that we have here in Q&A and show on stage. And well, it's asking, just wondering what's Maissa's opinion on implementing blockchain tech and cryptocurrencies in relation to EQIC.
Okay, I never worked in blockchain personally, so I cannot go, into the details of this. But if we want to talk about the Middle East region, they are all into blockchain and cryptocurrencies. So there's a huge market there. And yes, eKYC is very important. Even the double step verification is very important, because sometimes if you don't have these double step verification with eKYC, there are some questions that are asked. So yeah, the Middle East region is a lot into blockchains and cryptocurrencies and NFTs. And yes, implementing eKYC is very important for that. Again, it's the trust and credibility elements here that are at stake.
Yeah, we just brought a guy yesterday. He just joined the community today. He just sent a message while you were presenting your case.
Okay.
And he said yesterday we had a chat, and he was saying he's way more known outside of Brazil, especially those countries, than in Brazil. So
Really?
that's
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly,
that's
exactly, exactly. Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah.
Maisa, I think we are about to wrap this up today. So again, thank you very much. We covered, I mean, very interesting aspects from understanding more what the Middle East actually is. You spoke about Lebanon and how many languages you guys speak there, like around 65-66% of the population speaking 3 languages. Then you covered your career as well, spoke about yeah, L'Oreal, Mars, what didn't really work for Mars. You covered it, you touched a bit on there. So I have a final question, which is, myself being international now, I live in Denmark for 11 years. And I wouldn't say, I think Denmark compared to many countries is very laid back, very relaxed compared to Germany, for example, where I think they're more strict. But still, I feel Europe is so slow compared to how we how we are in Brazil or even the US. I think I feel the space whenever I'm in São Paulo. The let's say the people are the hunger for business for and the pace here is very different, which means that that's the reason why I decided to create the club, because I think it's very hard to burst the bubble just to like to so the club, the idea here is for all of us to benefit from an international network so we can get to know each other and accelerate our initiatives and of course build friendships and and whatnot. Now, what's your impression? You're such an international person as well, living in Lisbon, but with all of this international background, what can you say about the speed of business, the speed of the risk-taking appetite, if you like, that people have in your experience in your region compared to what you see in Europe nowadays?
Yeah, interesting question. But I won't have the same answer before COVID and after COVID, right? Because after COVID, people are more focused on their well-being, right? On their personal development than before. So today people are less, I'm not talking in general, but I mean everyone is seeing that even with the work from home, right? People want to be more, consultants, remote work, want to work less to enjoy life more, after COVID. This is a trend that we see everywhere, even in the Middle East region, not only in Europe, right? This is important to know because COVID changed the way, everyone does business. Now, if I want to compare, I'm actually going to compare Lisbon to Lebanon, right? Because this is, the two countries. I'm not going to talk about Paris, although I could. But if I want to compare Lisbon to Lebanon, yes, I could see that here people are more laid back than in Lebanon. But I'm going to tell you why. For example, in Lebanon, you have the thing that you don't know what tomorrow will happen, with all the wars that happen around the country, with all the instability. So people want to do things fast. They want to move fast, everything. It's a cultural thing, right? They open bars and restaurants, even if there's a war, next to them. This is how they are. This is how they live. This is in their DNA, because for them, today could be your last day on earth. And so they have this in them that they want to do things quickly, right? They don't, they don't take any pause in their career. They don't. I just realized, like, when I moved to Lisbon, that whoa, I need to take a break. I've been, working like that just because this is in the culture of Lebanese people. Dubai, they made a heaven out of a desert in just a couple of years, right? So it's all in the, again, this is because they also have government money, but it's all in the, mentality and what do you want to show, right? Here in Europe, people are more laid back because first they think that they are more superior, let's face it, than other regions, right? They think that, and it's true, they have beautiful things to go to see, to show, and today there's easy money that can be done on the internet. Yeah, we just talked about blockchain and cryptocurrency and NFT. So people are more, we are telling people to be more laid back because it's much easier today to make money online, right? So everything is changing. But again, it's within the culture itself, how people think, how they grew up, what's their DNA, what's their system. I didn't know, by the way, that in Lebanon we were like that up until I came here. Because when
Right.
when I was in Paris, I was still young and everything, so I didn't have the maturity and to think about that. But this is how it is. So you need to understand the culture of the people, where they come from, to understand their drive, towards working. So and why some more people are more, laid back, or more, it's the culture. Everyone knows that German work a lot. If you have a German boss, good luck to you, right? They work a lot. They make things happen. It's true. All the other make things happen, but they take longer, right? So it depends on the culture. So
No, and that's such a rich conversation. I mean, for example, in Denmark, people that's how they are born. They're born into a system where they get money to study, the government is taking care of them. It's very, very different from Brazil, where you have maybe 2% of the population who are okay, and and then you have a bunch of people who are trying to make ends meet. It's a different world, right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
when I studied, for example, doing internship, I had to work 6 hours a day, take the bus, go to the uni. So and here it's like you make money to study, and there's no comparison, different systems. But what I'm saying is, when you're born into a system like this, then you take it for granted, right? And then it's very important that you travel so you can see what the world actually is.
One more point that I would like to add also here is that most European countries have a retreat plan, right? So when you're over 65, the government actually pays you, a minimum, every month. You don't have this in the Middle East. You don't have this in Lebanon. So you need to work to make sure that you'll have enough money to when you retire, right? So this also plays a lot.
It's very, very interesting. Mayssa, this was amazing. Very honest and straightforward talk. I love it. If our members and potential new members and people who just watched you, what they want to learn more about you, and they want to get in contact, what's the best way?
LinkedIn. I'm always responsive on LinkedIn. I'm gonna share with you here. I can share it on the group. I'll share my LinkedIn on the group now.
Sweet.
All right.
All right. So that was Mayssa Nasr. Mayssa, thank you so much for this. This
Thank
was
you.
fantastic. Let's catch up offline. That was it. All right.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for the opportunity, Carlos, and nice to meet you all. Ciao.
Always. Thank you. Ciao.
Thank you.